The Israeli government has approved a plan to increase the population of the annexed Golan Heights.
And this is following the fall of Bashar al-Assad in Syria. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said that his government has unanimously approved $11 million plan for the demographic development of the Golan.
The Golan is home to about 23,000 Druze Arabs whose presence predates the occupation and most of whom retain Syrian citizenship, as well as around 30,000 Israelis. In a statement, Netanyahu's office said, "We will continue to establish ourselves there and settle there as well."
Now, this comes as Israel continues to strike Syria. A Syrian war monitor said that Israeli strikes had targeted military sites in coastal Tartus region, calling them the heaviest strikes in the area in more than a decade. However, Israel claims it does not want a conflict with Syria.
We have no interest in confronting Syria. We will determine Israel's policy towards Syria according to the emerging reality on the ground. I remind you that for decades, Syria was an active enemy state to Israel. It attacked us again and again. It allowed others to attack us from its territory. It allowed Iran to arm Hezbollah through its territory.
Meanwhile, the leaders of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, Abu Mahmoud al-Golani, met with United Nations envoy Jair Pedersen, who is on a visit to Damascus. Golani discussed with Pedersen the changes that have occurred on the political scene and also underscored the need to update a 2015 United Nations Security Council resolution to suit the new reality in Syria.
Now, HTS is rooted in Syria's branch of Al-Qaeda, the Al-Nusra Front. UN Security Council Resolution 2254 of 2015, to which the rebel statement referred, mentions Nusra's terrorist designation. Now, during the meeting, Pedersen told Golani the fact that Nusra was listed by the UNSC as a terrorist organization was obviously a complicating factor in efforts to find a way forward.
Meanwhile, after the US, the UK has confirmed establishing diplomatic contacts with HTS. UK's Foreign Secretary David Lammy acknowledged that the HTS remains a designated terrorist organization, but listed the need for a representative and inclusive government in Syria and also the destruction of Assad-era chemical weapon stockpiles as reasons to maintain diplomatic contact. On the very same day, the Foreign Ministry also announced the release of $63 million of humanitarian aid for the most vulnerable Syrians.
Now, meanwhile, Qatar's embassy to Syria is to resume operations on Tuesday. The Gulf Emirate made the announcement as its diplomats visited the country and met with its transitional government. It also named a new head of mission to Syria, Khalifa Abdullah al-Mohammed al-Sharif. Doha closed its embassy in Damascus and recalled its ambassador in July 2011, early in the uprising against the Assad government that turned into a civil war.
And well, for more on this, we're now being joined by Dr. Avner Cohen from Monterey in California. He is a professor of non-proliferation and terrorism studies at Middlebury Institute. Welcome to World DNA, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Now, Professor Cohen, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has approved a plan of the population of the annexed Golan Heights. He further said that this move could strengthen the state of Israel. We've also been seeing Israel striking strategic military sites in Syria. However, Bibi has said that it does not want to get into a war or a conflict with Syria. My question to you is that, considering all of this, what is the aim here or broader objectives for Syria?
Well, I think it's two things. One is Israel wants to emphasize its presence in the Golan Heights. As you know, Israeli Jewish population in Golan Heights is not that high, even though there are some 2 dozen or so small settlements. The amount of money that was allocated is relatively small one, and I think the number is between 20 or 30,000. So if it's double that, it will be another 10 or 15,000. So it's not very, very significant. The political point is that Israel wants to start its an effort to establish a relationship with the informal relationship with the new regime in Damascus in a way that would stress Israel's claims over the Golan Heights. I think at the same time, there are efforts, mostly informal, to try to greet and to look for a way by which Israel could establish some kind of connections with the new regime in Damascus.
Absolutely. Now, we also know that UN envoy has called out the resolution 2254 and said that the that he's called the Nusra as the terrorist group. It says so. While the UK and US are trying to establish their relationship with HTS, how do you think the whole thing pans out? We know that they are a terrorist group. How do you think US and UK will try to look at their ties with them?
Well, I think even though the current organization, which is the dominant group among the rebels, used to be at one time terrorists, or used to be an outspring of essentially Al-Qaeda, by now it's clear they're trying to have a different face. And I think it's expressed its effort to be a new leaders of a country and to establish themselves in a different way. I think both the United States, United Kingdom, and countries in Europe trying to accommodate it. So whatever was the case a few years ago, I think there is readiness, and I think it should be also in Israel, to address a new regime in Syria without the prejudices of the past. And I think that to let the benefit of the doubt for the front in Damascus to have a new face.
Dr. Cohen, just to take that point forward, which my colleague made here, and I have to draw this comparison here with a lot of countries, and UK's foreign minister also saying that they are establishing diplomatic ties with HTS. However, HTS remains a proscribed terrorist organization, something which we had seen with the Taliban in Afghanistan. My question to you is that how fast and different will the situation in Syria be from Afghanistan?
I think we need to simply to give a good and fast watch about the fast evolving situation in Syria. So far, there are many signs that the new forces in Syria are trying to greet and to give signals of friendship and to a degree even plurality to various minorities in Syria, including, for example, the tiny Jewish community. And that's the reason why I think that the West should treat the new regime in Syria without prejudice and try to allow them to establish a new face, if that's the case. So it should be a watch and look about this fast evolving situation in Syria.
Right, Dr. Cohen, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA. We'll, of course, have to wait and see how the situation pans out in Syria, but thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.